Yes, hello to you all once again, and another very warm welcome back to your favourite classic dirt bike TV. And firstly, of course, thanks to all the brand new subscribers who have signed up to my channel since my last video posting. Welcome aboard, and I do hope you continue to enjoy future videos here on my classic dirt bike TV channel. Now, as the racing season here in the UK is more or less now finished for 2021, I do hope you will all continue to view my video content through the winter months, because we still have some fantastic bikes lined up to air here on my channel. We have some quite rare machines as well, so I do hope you'll continue to watch my video channel throughout the long winter months. Now, coming up next, we're going to take a look at a bike that I came across during my paddock travels in 2021, and this is a bike that I saw at a Scottish twin shock and evolution event that was held in Pow Mill in Scotland in May of 21. Now, this bike, of course, is not a fully original machine due to its different graphics and different colour, but nonetheless it's still a quite nice looking piece of kit. So without any further delay, let's just dive straight into the video and take a look at Iain Clark's 1994 Honda CR500. Now, it's not very often that we feature these relatively newer Evolution bikes here on Classic Dirt Bike TV, although this very nice 1994 CR500 Honda of Iain Clark's was a bike that caught my eye on a paddock walkabout while I was attending a Scottish twin shock and evolution race event at Pow Mill in 2021. But of course, naturally, this bike's not decked out in its original Honda nuclear red colour, and I think it was these old school white plastics and those Castrol graphics that really caught my eye on the day, so I started snapping away and grabbed a few pictures. But again, Iain's another dirt bike fanatic, and he does have quite a few bikes in his collection, but this featured machine here was one that Iain bought from another fellow racer called Johnny Bunga. Now, just before Iain took delivery of the new bike, it was given a full engine rebuild, although basically the bike is still essentially the same as when Iain bought it, other than, of course, he's had the front and rear suspensions revalved and reworked, because Iain is 6'5" tall, so he certainly needed the bike set up to suit his taller stature. And as I said, this CR500 motor has had a full rebuild, and more or less every single part on the engine was either renewed or refurbished to end up with what is now essentially a brand new power plant. Now, as you're no doubt aware, it does take a bit of a knack to get these big bore Hondas fired up, and Iain often said that because of his tall stature and his aching and aging joints, it was sometimes a bit of a chore to get the bike fired into life. Although then a racer friend of Iain's suggested that maybe he should try a modified cylinder head and maybe a decompressor valve, which would certainly help him out when it comes to starting the motor. So once Iain had all of the modifications completed, he said it made a massive difference to the starting of the engine and makes this big bore 500 just as easy to start as any smaller two-stroke 250. And these couple of pictures here were taken when the Honda motor was going through its full rebuild process. But I'm sure you don't need me to tell you about the brutal power that these big 500 Honda engines can develop, and I'm sure for 1994 I think these engines were kicking out around the 56 to 58 horsepower bracket, and they had a 5-speed gearbox, as I remember, and a heavy-duty clutch, and of course electronic CDI ignition to control all the sparks. Now, this exhaust expansion race pipe is not, of course, a Honda item, because this is an upgraded replacement pipe from DEP, or Derek Elwell Pipes, who, of course, are based here in Maidstone in Kent in the UK, and DEP manufacture all manner of race exhaust for just about any make or model of off-roader. So maybe if you're in the market for a new exhaust or tailpipe, then DEP might be worth a call just to see what they can do for you. But as I said, this CR500 motor is just an absolute brute of an engine, which is fueled by a 38mm Mikuni flat slide carburetor through that multi-petal Boyson reed valve block. But it's only the very brave that can handle the power from these CR500s, and if you can crank that throttle fully open in top gear and stay in the saddle, then you're certainly in a very small group of riders that have those elusive balls of steel. Now, back in the day, these 1994 CR500s had a set of 43mm Showa upside-down forks that did have a decent range of adjustment for rebound and damping, and of course these front forks have undergone a bit of revalving and tuning by Pro Action Suspension, and this work was just done to suit Iain's tall stature and his particular riding style. Although compared to earlier Honda front suspension systems, these were state-of-the-art for 94, and by all accounts they worked very well straight out of the box. And once again, a single rear shock at the back of this bike, which is a standard Showa unit that's once more undergone the new setup and tuning by Pro Action Suspensions. And as I said, there's so much that you can do with these modern day suspension systems nowadays, and they're quite easily customized to suit the rider's weight, riding style, and whatever kind of track the bike will be riding on. And when you connect the rear shock to this Pro Link Honda rear suspension system, it certainly turns this bike into a strong and quite plush ride at the rear. But this rear alloy box section swing arm was certainly very strong and reasonably light for such a big 500 motocrosser, and again a single pot rear brake at the back, which wasn't jaw-stoppingly powerful, but it still did a very good job of helping to slow the bike down if you wanted to make a turn. But of course these hydraulic brakes are a much better system than the old school drum affairs from way back in the day. Although, to be fair, it was really this bike's white plastics and these old school Castrol oil graphics that really caught my eye on the day. And of course these may not be to everybody's liking, because I do know that many of you Honda CR owners out there certainly like to have their Honda race bikes decked out in their original nuclear red, although in this modern day you can get graphics made in all kinds of weird and wonderful colours and disguises, and it's so easy just to personalise your own particular race bike. But at the business end of Iain's 500, we have a very good set of Renthal race bars and a pair of quite good quality Apico levers to help control the clutch and that front brake, although a very conservative hand is required here on this gasser throttle so that you don't unleash all of the Honda's horses all at once, because this bike will certainly scare you more than any modern roller coaster if you give it a handful unexpectedly, because I do know of a few instances where riders have tried one of these 500 rocket ships for the very first time and then scared themselves shitless and then opted for its younger and more tame brother, the CR250, which of course is still very fast but much more user-friendly. But once again, I'm almost sure that Iain's had the original Honda CR seat modified, as this part looks like it's had extra padding added, although that's more than likely to have been done again to suit Iain's 6'5" frame and just to make him fit onto the bike just that little bit better. But who was it that said that you had to be short and stocky to be a motocross rider? Because I personally know a rider who still races one of these kind of off-road bikes, and he's 6'7" tall. Although without doubt these CR500 two-strokers are a real man's bike, and the majority of riders who do ride these kind of bikes never really unleash the full potential of the power that these bikes possess. Although if you can find a psychopathic loony who's wired to the moon and likes to get his thrills in the outer limits of motocross racing, then just stick him on one of these CR500s and I can guarantee you there won't be many bikes that'll catch him. Although having said that, when both rider and machine are in tune with each other and focused, then these big 500s are almost unbeatable. But in a race situation, if your concentration just wanders for just a second, then this big beastie will certainly bite you back. But whether you agree with this radical new colour scheme, and of course the Castrol graphics, is really immaterial, because for me I think this is still a cracking looking bike, and Iain says that this bike certainly is no show bike or garage queen because it does get well used. Although I'd have to say that he's a braver man than me to try and tame the iconic and mighty Honda CR500. Well, there you have it. I do hope you enjoyed that brief walk around Iain Clark's 1994 Honda CR500. Not, of course, a fully original bike because of its white colour and those different Castrol graphics, but nonetheless, it's still a cracking looking piece of kit. Okay, if you've not already done it, I do hope you will consider subscribing to my channel, because in future videos, that way you won't miss out and you'll be notified immediately each time I upload a brand new video. So if you've not already done it, I do hope you will consider subscribing to my channel in the future. Now, coming up in my next video posting, we're going to take a look at a fully blown works machine. Now, this 1981 Kramer 410 was a works racer for the legendary Keith Ree, when Keith rode for the Kramer factory way back in the early 80s. So we'll be taking a look at this lovely Kramer works bike in my next video posting here on my channel. But until then, of course, everybody continue to be safe and well out there. If you're still managing to ride your old vintage dirt bikes during the winter period, just continue to watch what you're doing out there, and we'll all get back here again very soon to talk about more vintage race bikes right here on your #1 and favourite classic dirt bike TV channel.